Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Sallallahu wa sallam wa barak ala nabina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajmain. So inshallah ta'ala we're going to begin the first segment, which deals with kindness and obedience to parents. So we'll begin our discussion of interpersonal relations, beginning with the relationship that we are to have as Muslims with our parents. And if you look at the schedule, you see that the first two segments that follow the introduction are kindness to and obedience to parents, and then the danger of disobeying the parents. So what we're going to do is we're going to conflate those two segments into one segment, which we'll entitle Kindness and Obedience to Parents. So in this discussion, we'll also talk about the consequences of disobeying the parents. So now, why do we begin? Well, actually, let me do this. Let me give you bullet points so you know what we're going to cover. So let me give you those. The first point is the virtue and importance of being kind and obeying one's parents. Second, are matters which entitle our parents to the utmost respect, absolute obedience, etc. Number three, the command to obey parents is unconditional. The command to obey parents is unconditional. Number four, the rights of parents. So we'll give a breakdown and mention specifically the rights of parents. Number five, your mother, your mother, your mother. Number six, we can never repay them. And number seven, obeying the parents or details regarding obeying the parents. Let's title it like that. Details of obeying the parents, or related to obeying the parents, something like that.
Number six again? Number seven?
واحد اثنين ثلاثة أربعة خمسة ستة سبعة. So basically, 7 is the details, conditions, stipulations. Let's put it like that. Stipulations for obeying the parents. Let's put it like that. Stipulations for obeying the parents. Let's put it like that. Number 8, the danger of disobeying one's parents, or the danger of disobedience. Number 9, examples of uqooq. Examples of uqooq. And we're going to learn what that term means, uqooq. So just put it in Arabic, just like that. Dangers of uqooq. And last but not least, number 10, causes of uqooq. Causes of uqooq. What causes uqooq? So those are the bullets, those are the points we're going to cover in this segment, insha'Allah ta'ala. طيب. So let's begin first and foremost talking about the virtue and importance of this topic and the rights of parents. But before we do that, why don't we begin with the parents? Why don't we begin with children, neighbors, the rights of Muslims? Well, it behooves us to begin where Allah began. And to understand that after Allah and the fulfillment of His rights, no right has more right to be fulfilled than the right of the parents. And this is the way Allah has mentioned it in the Quran. So you find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we talked about ayat al-uqooq al-ashara, the verse which mentions the 10 rights. Allah starts with the right of who? His own right. وَاعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا. Worship Allah and don't associate any partners with him. وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. And regarding the parents, be what? Be kind to them, respect them, honor them. So after mentioning his right, he immediately mentions the right of the parents. We also have in the ayah of Surah Al-Isra, Allah says, وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. Your Lord decreed that you worship none but Him, and that you are good, kind, respectful to your parents. So what you find, the guidance of the Quran, is that Allah's right comes first, and after His right, the right of the parents. So it behooves us to follow that course and to make it clear, if we're going to mention rights, people's rights and how they're supposed to be dealt with, to start with what the parents, to make it clear to anyone in the audience that the one who has the most right to your good character, your good companionship, your good interpersonal relations, it should be what? Your parents. طيب. We also have the hadith collected by Bukhari and Muslim on the authority of Abd'Llah ibn Mas'ud, in which the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ibn Mas'ud said, قلت يا رسول الله أي العمل أحب إلى الله. He said, I said to the Messenger of Allah, what deed is most beloved to Allah? قال الصلاة على وقتها. He said, prayer in its prescribed time. قلت ثم أي. I said, then what, O Messenger of Allah? قال بر الوالدين. He said, honoring, respecting, obeying your parents. Giving Allah His right, and then what? The right of the parents. قلت ثم أي. Then I said, and then what, O Messenger of Allah? قال الجهاد في سبيل الله. He said, fighting the way of Allah, which what takes, he said, bil walidain takes precedence over what? Al-jihad fi sabilillah. Subhanallah. طيب. So why is this so stressed and so emphasized? Why is it a matter of such importance to the deen of Allah? What are the matters which entitle? What is it about the parents which entitles them to so much what? So much respect, such that their right is second only to the right of Allah. There's a few points. Number one, our parents, after Allah, are the reason for our existence. Our parents, after Allah, are the reason for our existence. You're here because of what? Your parents' choice to what? Bring you into this world. I'm going to ask you honestly. We can argue pro-life, pro-choice. We can argue that all day long, right? And really in Islam, there's no argument. But at the end of the day, don't your parents have a choice to go through with it? So they willfully what? Chose to what? Bring you into the world. And you are here with an opportunity to worship Allah because of what? Because of them. That's one reason why they're entitled to what? This status. Number two, they raised and cared for you when you were too weak and helpless to care for yourself. You couldn't feed yourself. The gas that would build up in your chest and cause you pain, you couldn't what? Release it on your own. Okay? If you went to the restroom, you couldn't clean yourself. Okay? If you needed to be bathed, you couldn't bathe yourself. Okay? You want to go to sleep, you're tired, but you can't even what? Fall asleep on your own. And they did what? They did all those things for you. So they cared for you when you were too weak and helpless to care for yourself. Another reason why what? They have this special status. Number three, they suffered so that you could relax and find comfort. So when you were tired and cranky or when you were sick, they would do what? They would stay up and do different things to put you at ease so that you could what? Sleep and rest or find comfort. When you were sick, they would what? Take you all around town to every hospital, every clinic, every doctor to find out what was wrong, get you the right medicine, get you the right treatment so you could what? You could be okay. So they suffered so that you could relax. They also spent sleepless nights so that you could rest easy. This one is رقم 1 2 3 4 yeah 4 yeah number 4. I'm sorry. Thank you. Which one? They spent sleepless nights so that you could rest easy. Okay? I remember SubhanAllah. I was going to mention a personal anecdote, but I won't. But I'll just say in general that I don't know if your mothers have ever shared with you some of the trials and tribulations that you put them through as a child. But I would advise you just to go home, go to mom one day, just ask her, and just let her tell you about those nights where you just coughed and screamed and fussed, and she just watched the hands of the clock go around trying to put you to bed, basically, put you at ease. So they spent sleepless nights so that you could rest easy. Next one, your mother specifically carried you in her womb. And that wasn't easy. That wasn't easy. So your mother carried you in her womb. Don't have any ladies here now, but they're downstairs. So, carrying a child is very painful for a woman. Huge amount of weight being carried in the stomach area puts a lot of strain on a woman's back, on her knees, on her, her joints. And then the pain of childbirth itself and some of the hormonal things that go on that they suffer through. It's a lot for a woman. And the woman sometimes happily takes this on for your sake. So again, this is another reason why our parents have the status that they have. As for the father, in a typical patriarchal setting, the father works hard to provide food, clothing, and shelter. And in many cases, the father will work any job, will work multiple jobs to make sure that he provides adequately for his family. And you have, some families where they are financially challenged, where the father has to work a number of jobs and will come home, eyes beet red, veins protruding from his head from fatigue. And he bears it all so that that child can what? Can eat, be clothed, be educated, etc. And in many times we fail to appreciate all the effort and time and pain that's being basically invested so that we can just be comfortable. So that's another reason why parents have this status. Another reason is that both parents strive to raise, rear, and guide you. They put a lot of effort into making you the man or the woman that you are. And so again, because of that effort, which some of it is tangible and some of it is intangible, they have this status. And I remember one particular brother who, well, let me actually mention that in conjunction with the last one I'm going to mention as far as the reasons. That both parents are hurt by what hurts you and would rather be injured than to see you harmed. So, and this is even if you don't realize that the thing that is harming you is harming you. You may be willfully doing something which is harmful to you, and seeing you like that will hurt them. So a particular brother that I knew in the kingdom, we went out for lunch and he was telling me how he became mustaqim. So it's not uncommon for people in the kingdom of Saudi Arabia, young people, to have a period where they are very irreligious. And they do many things which go against the deen. And then they have like this epiphany, like some type of moment in their life, which basically caused them to come back to the deen, come to their senses, etc. So he was sharing with me the moment in his life that made him come back to the path of Allah and be more committed, etc. So he's basically saying that, I used to go out and hang out late at night and smoke cigarettes and do what young people do. They would do something called tafheet. Tafheet means that they go and they'll take a car and drive down a long strip very fast. And then when they get to maximum speed, they'll pull the parking brake. And so what that does is it lofts the car into a very violent spin. And they do this for the thrill, okay? And also to impress people who are like onlookers. And a lot of people have done this, and it's resulted in fatalities. It's a very dangerous thing to do, and we have some engineers who I'm sure can tell us in more detail why this is so dangerous. But they do this, and he said he used to do those things, etc. And he would go out against the wishes of his mother and stay out late at night, and she wouldn't know, is he going to come home or not? Because people are getting killed doing the things that he does. So at any rate, I guess one night, he got up in the middle of the night and he heard someone crying. And so he went close, and it was coming from his mother's room. He went close to the door to listen to hear what was going on. And so his mother was crying. She was in prayer, crying, praying to Allah that He would guide her son and protect him, let him see the error of his ways before something tragic happened to him. And this moved him so much that he said, look at all the pain I'm causing to my mother. She's in there weeping because of me. And he said, I'm hurting her without even realizing that I'm hurting her, causing her harm. And if I'm a good son, I wouldn't do this. And so from that moment, he changed his life. So the point I'm trying to make is that this mother, this guy is doing something which is hurting him. It doesn't necessarily directly affect her, but because it's her child, she cared more about him than he cared about his own self, spending her nights in prayer, trying to bring this person back to the path of Allah. So this is why these parents have this status. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kind of talks about this, or some of these things we mentioned in the Quran itself. So in Surah Luqman, verse 31, the 31st surah of the Quran, verses 14 and 15, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes this thusly saying, and we've enjoined on man regarding his parents. Basically, we've ordered man to honor his parents. His mother carried him in weakness and hardship, topped with weakness and hardship. And his weaning took 2 years. Anishkur li wali walidayk. We've commissioned man because of this, that he give thanks to me, Allah, and to his parents. Okay? So, we also have the verse in Surah Al-Isra, verse number 23, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَقُلْ رَبِّ ارْحَمْهُمَا كَمَا رَبَّيَانِي صَغِيرًا. And say, O my Lord, have mercy upon them as they raised me when I was little. That basically Allah is telling us that they have this status because of what? Of all of the effort they put in to make us who we are, whether it's tangible or intangible. But the next point is that this command to honor the parents, to respect them and to obey them, it's generally unconditional. It's a mutlaq, amr mutlaq. It is an unconditional, unrestricted, unbound command. And I mention this because a lot of people in our communities are disrespectful to their parents. And when they're taken to task for that, they'll say, for example, that I'm a grown-up. I don't have to respect my mom. I don't have to obey her. I'm an adult. I have children of my own. Or they'll say, I don't listen to my father because he doesn't pray. I don't listen to my father because he's from Ahl Bid'ah. He's from the people of innovation. I don't listen to my father because he goes to that masjid. I don't listen to my father because he's Shi'i. He doesn't have our beliefs. He's, he has those weird beliefs, right? Or whatever. So I mention this point to answer the people who have this thinking that their obedience to their parents is either it's limited to a certain what? Age. That basically, yeah, you have to obey them and do whatever they say and listen to them, but that's only when what? Up until a certain age. Once you're at the age where you have your own family, you no longer live in their house, you don't have to listen to them, you don't have to obey them, you have to honor them, respect them, etc. So in response to that, we say that the evidence doesn't support that view because in the hadith of Abu Hurairah, read by Bukhari Muslim, Abu Hurairah narrates that a man came, جاء رجل إلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فقال يا رسول الله من حق الناس بحسن صحابته. He said that a man came, underline the word man, came to the Messenger of Allah and said, O Messenger of Allah, who has the most right to my good companionship? And the Prophet said, Ummuk, your mother. Then the man said, Thumma Thumma man. Then who? As if to say, okay, to be what? Dismiss her. Okay. All right, then who? He said, Ummuk, your mother. He said, okay, I got it, Ya Rasulullah. Then who? He said, Ummuk, 3 times. Thumma abuk, then your father. The Prophet gave this advice to who? A grown man, which tells you that if you are 40, 50, 60, whether you have 1 child or 10 children of your own, you still have to do what? You have to humble yourself in front of your mother and your father. You walk into their house, you walk with what? Your head down, right? You look around and you see if there's anything that needs to be what? Done. You don't wait to be told, right? And if you're told to do something, stand up, take out the trash, cut the grass. You what? You get to it, yeah. And you can't think that I don't have to respect them, I don't have to honor them, because what? I'm a grown person with children of my own. The Prophet said this to what? A grown man. طيب. Also, it's not conditioned on the quality of the parents. So some people will say, as we said, oh, my father's like this, he doesn't pray. He's not a good Muslim, so I don't respect him. Or my father was verbally abusive. He used to call me stupid. He used to say I'll never amount to anything. So that's why I don't obey him. I don't listen to him. I don't honor him. I don't respect him. My father goes to that masjid and the people in that masjid, they do weird things. So I don't honor him. I don't respect him. So we think that the quality of their Islam or the quality of their parenting or the quality of them as what? In terms of their character as individuals, as human beings, if they have shortcomings which we feel warrant them being dismissed and dishonored, we can dishonor them. But the texts don't support that. Because we have the ayah in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِن جَاهَدَكَ عَلَىٰ أَن تُشْرِكَ بِي مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٌ فَلَا تُطِعْهُمَا وَصَاحِبُهُمَا فِي الدُّنْيَا مَعْرُوفًا. Allah says, but if they strive in earnest to entice you to associate others with me, what type of parents are we talking about? Not only are they mushrikun, as Salim said, and he said it correctly, they are mushrikun, they are idolaters. Is there anything worse as far as a religious person than a religious person who commits idolatry? Isn't an idolater worse than a mubtadi', a person who's an innovator, a person who follows a madhab which you don't agree with? Definitely, if they are mushrik, that's worse than that, right? Not only are they mushrikun, but they're du'at ila shirk. They're people who we commit shirk, and that's not enough for us. We want you to what? Want you to do it too. They're calling you to a shirk. Okay? That's a pretty bad parent, I would say, right? That's in terms of what the quality of the person. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, even if they strive in earnest to entice you to associate others with me, of which you have no knowledge, then do not obey them. But behave with them in this world kindly. Treat them well. Obey them. Respect them. Right? We also have the hadith of Bukhari and Muslim on the authority of Asma, who said, my mother came to visit me while she was a polytheist. So I sought the verdict of the Messenger of Allah regarding what? Her visit. My mother has come, she said, to visit me, and she is averse and opposed to Islam, to me being a Muslim. Should I join the ties of kinship with her? Should I honor her, O Messenger of Allah? She's a mushrik, and she doesn't like the fact that I'm a Muslim. The Prophet said, he said, yes, practice good relations with your mother. So this is another mistake that people make, they commonly make, is that, okay, I'm not going to respect them, I'm not going to maintain the ties of kinship, I'm not going to honor them, I'm not going to obey them, because what? Because in my mind, they're bad people. It could be because of the quality of their Islam, could be because of the quality of their character, could be because. That's not a justification not to honor the parents. As we see clearly, Islam is teaching us what? You have to respect your parents, what? Regardless. But ثم بعد ذلك, what are the rights of the parents? Specifically speaking, what are the rights of the parents? Because this is where a lot of people too, they get lost. Okay, I understand that we're supposed to respect them, we're supposed to honor them, and they have rights, but practically speaking, what does that mean? So we're going to give some examples. It's not an exhaustive list, but we'll give some that will help you what? Create what? A framework in which you understand that how you should what? Interact with your parents. First of all, it's their right that we honor them through kindness in words and deeds, with our material wealth and physical persons. So basically, we speak to them what? Kindly. We do acts of kindness towards them. We use our material wealth to honor them. If they need something, we purchase it. We buy them gifts. And our physical persons, which means what? We'll work and we'll do labor to what? To appease them and please them. ثم بعد ذلك, obeying their commands and doing as they wish. Obeying their commands and doing as they wish. That they tell us to do something, we do it. If we know they like us to do something or behave in a certain way, we do so accordingly. Number 3, addressing them softly, gently, and respectfully, and avoiding being rude, belligerent, or disrespectful when addressing them. There's a certain way that you have to talk to your parents. Regardless of how old you are, you have to what? Speak to them what? Softly and respectfully. Okay? And your culture is also going to dictate. So for example, in some cultures, you don't address your parents unless you follow with what? Sir and ma'am. That's how it is in your culture. That's how it should be. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Okay? Or whatever equivalence you have. And in some cultures, no, that's not necessarily the case. But there's a certain what? Tone. Right? There's a certain tenor that's acceptable, and there's a certain tone and tenor which is not acceptable, so that you act accordingly. ثم بعد ذلك, smiling and greeting them with a pleasant expression. So when you go into your parents' house, you have to give them the impression you're happy to see them, or if they come to your home. Okay? So they come to the door and you what? You run to what? To greet them. You're smiling. You're like so happy that they came. Okay? You give them that impression. It shouldn't be like, oh, no, subhanAllah. It shouldn't be like that. And unfortunately, a lot of people do that. You know, as if to the point that there was one YouTube video that was being circulated. It was a very good video. And it was about a guy who, he got a call from his mom. And you know how when you get the phones now, when you get a call from your mom, the contact appears. And people have names to the contacts. So the name that he gave to his mother was, I think it was Kathirat al-Talibat. Or Talabat, I'm sorry. Kathirat al-Talabat. This is the person who what? Who's always asking for stuff. Right? That's the title he gave for the contact for his mother. And so she's calling, the phone is ringing, and he goes, oh. And rather than answer it, he turns the phone face down next to him. Okay? And so what ultimately happened, a guy is sitting next to him on the same bench. And so he goes and he says, Man, you call your mother kathirat talabat. Man, that's pretty sad, you know. He said, I had a mother once, you know, but she died. And man, what I wouldn't give for her to give me a call right now. And he starts, you know, going on and talking about, you know, how his mom did this and his mom did that, and how he would love to have the opportunity to take a phone call from her and find out what she needed and to respond to her request. But now I don't have a mother and this, that, and the other. And the man took, Jazallah khair, you know, he took the advice, he got the point, and he actually lifted up the phone and called his mom and said, you know, what do you need? But the message in the whole little clip is that we should be happy to see our parents, happy to hear from them, and we should be eager to what? To fulfill their needs. ثم بعد ذلك, I'll give you another example related to this. So for example, okay, so the next one, serving them and tending to their needs in a manner suited to them. Serving them and tending to their needs in a manner suited to them. So now, I'll give you an example. Let's say that one of us had an elderly parent or elderly parents who, because of their age, they had a hard time remembering things. And also, they're not able to really move and do things for themselves. So for example, you get a parent who's so elderly that they can't operate a vehicle. And they're starting to lose what? Their eyesight. So it's not safe for them to operate a vehicle. And they get bills that come to the house and they can't really what? Read the bills. And even if they read the bills, they can't remember to pay them. So one of the ways that a child would serve them in the way that suits their needs will be to come periodically and what? Check the mail. Collect all the bills. Sit down, take the checkbook, and do what? Write out the bills, right? Balance the checkbook, put them in the envelope, stamp, and drive to the post office and what? And do that. Or go to the agency, whether it be the gas company or the phone company, and actually what? Pay the bill. This is something that a child should what? Should do. And which suits what? Their needs and is a way of serving them. ثم بعد ذلك, last but not least, do not allow yourself to become annoyed, vexed, or agitated by them due to their advanced age, illness, or feebleness. I know that's kind of long, and I'll repeat it. Do not allow yourself to become annoyed, vexed, or agitated by them due to their advanced age, illness, or feebleness. And this is another thing that happens when parents get up in age, is that they don't hear well. So you find yourself forced to what? To repeat. People get annoyed by that. Can you hear me? You know what I said? Listening? You don't do that. You don't talk to your parents like that. If you have to repeat 1,000 times, you repeat. But you don't, become vexed or agitated. They forget, so you have to what? Constantly what? Remind them. Okay? So yeah, we're gonna go and do the shopping. After we do the shopping, we're gonna come back and we're gonna look online for some of the things that you wanted to get. So when are we gonna look online? I told you, Mom, we're gonna do it right after we do the shopping. When are we gonna do the shopping? We're gonna go right now. When are we gonna do the online thing? You just have to keep what? We're gonna do it, Mom. Kindly, you can't get annoyed. Don't ask me any more questions. We'll do it. You can't. And children do that. We can't do that, Yahwan.
What about saying because maybe you don't want to become vexed or upset with repeating, but at the same time you're human, so you just start saying, "I got you, Mama. Mama, I got it, Mama." And it's kind of like,
politely, yeah.
But it's kind of almost in a way like, "Mama, I got you, Mama. Okay, Mama."
As long as you're polite, because you know the best way to deal with it when they forget that I'm going to take care of it, and that will make them stop asking questions.
Yeah.
There's no wrong, as long as it's done politely and not disrespectfully. And last but not least, sometimes because of their age, they move slowly. And so you're trying to take them to get some shopping done. You have many errands that you need to run for them. And you're like, come on, can't you keep up? No, they can't keep up. So you just have to what? Tolerate.
Don't rush them.
Yeah, you just have to tolerate. You have to walk slower or let them get a few steps ahead and then you take a step, however it is. But we have to, these are some of the basic rights that our parents have what? Over us. وَعَلَى هَذَا فَقِسْ. And with this list, you can do what? Make an analogy. So you don't need to know every right, but you can use this list to what? To make an analogy of what? Are they entitled? Oh, certainly. Because of what? Because of this. So, ثم بعد ذلك, I want to comment on the hadith that we mentioned previously, the hadith of Abu Hurairah, where the Prophet said, when he was asked who has the most right to my companionship, my good character, the Prophet said, your mother, your mother, your mother. He mentioned the mother 3 times. So I want to comment on this hadith and mention a few points about it. One is that some people misunderstand this hadith to mean that the father is not of great importance and honoring him is not something which Islam demands or prescribed. That's not what the Prophet meant. And we know this because the Prophet said, Thumma abuk, as if to say, don't forget about your father, but what? Focus, pay specific attention, special attention to who? To your mother. So he didn't understand, so he wants us to know that the mother has the most right, but not the only right, which is what a lot of people understand from this hadith. He wanted to emphasize that the right of the mother exceeds the right of the father many times, but still the father has what? Has rights to all the things we mentioned previously. Okay, but a greater emphasis should be given to the mother. But then the question comes, well, why? Why the mother more than the father? For 2 reasons. First of all, the mother, especially in the early years of the child's life, is generally far more attentive to the child than the father. She's the one who stays up late nursing, burping, changing, and rocking the child to sleep. She's the one who typically nurses the child back to health when it's ill and sacrifices her own comfort to make the child comfortable. Doesn't mean fathers don't do that, but generally speaking, who does that? The mother. Okay? So you owe a greater debt to her in her later years than you owe to who? The father. So that's one reason why the Prophet said this. The second reason is because the mother, because she's a woman, she is generally weaker and more in need of someone to look after her than who? The father. Which is another reason why the Prophet said, Thumma abuk, then your father. Because why? Your mother's going to need you more than your father. Your father's a rajal, he's a man. Okay, he can stand for himself, take care of himself. But your mom, because she's a woman, will what? She'll need you more. So be more attentive to your mother. So the hadith encourages children to be attentive, to be especially attentive to their mothers, but never to what? Ignore, disregard, disrespect, or otherwise mistreat their fathers, which is what happens. You find people are just totally negligent when it comes to what? The father. Especially in situations where there is a divorce or a separation. And so the children will look after the mother and what? Disregard the father. As they'll act as if he doesn't exist, like he's dead to them. Okay? Sometimes it happens even when what? The parents are still married. It's even worse when there's a divorce or a separation. It's important to know also as a child, you have to put this, as I say, bil Arabi, nasba aynaik. You have to put it what? Right in the forefront of your mind, right in front of your face, all the time. You can never repay your parents. No matter what you do, you can never repay them. But the fact that you can't repay them doesn't mean you don't what? Try to repay them. You can never repay them. The Prophet said in the hadith, collected by Muslim, on the authority of Abu Hurairah, لا يجزي ولد والدا إلا أن يجده مملوكا فيشتريه فيعتقه. The Prophet said in the hadith, no son can repay the kindness shown by his father. Again, showing that what? The father did serve you. The father did work for you. The father is owed something and not supposed to be neglected. You can never repay the kindness shown by your father unless you find him as a slave. You purchase him and set him free. You can't repay your father unless you find him as a slave, purchase him, and set him free. And to be honest with you, the Prophet's giving this example, not saying you could actually repay him by doing that, just to show you that how what? The bar is so high you can never what? Repay your dad. We also have the hadith or the qissah or the athar, the narration, where Ibn Umar was making hajj. And he saw a man going around the Kaaba carrying his mother on his shoulders. And when that man's eyes caught the eyes of Ibn Umar, he cried out to him and he said, Ya Abu Abdurrahman, O Ibn Umar, Ara'aytani jazaytuha? He said, do you consider that I have repaid her? I have compensated her for all that she did. And Ibn Umar, he said, La wallah, walau bitalqatin wahidatin min talaqatiha. Ibn Umar said, no, I swear by Allah, you have not repaid her. Not even for one contraction from the contractions of childbirth. وَلَكِنَّكَ أَحْسَنْتَ, but you've done well. وَاللَّهُ يُثِيبُكَ عَلْ الْقَلِيلِ كَثِيرًا. He said, you've done well, and Allah is going to reward you for this little thing you did. Ibn Umar called it what? A little thing. Allah is going to reward you tremendously, immensely for this little thing you did. So subhanAllah, we can never repay them. We need to have this in our mind, although we strive every day that they're living. And even after they die, to what? To repay them. طيب ثم بعد ذلك we mentioned previously that obeying the parents is what? It's an amr mutlaq. Okay? But that needs to be clarified a little bit. And that's because we do have the hadith of Ibn Umar, collected by al-Bukhari, in which the Prophet ﷺ, he said, As-sam'u wa ta'a al-mar'i al-muslim fima habba wa karih ma lam yu'mar bi ma'siyatillah fala sam' alayhi wa la ta'a. Said in the hadith of Ibn Umar, it's upon the Muslim to obey those in authority, which encompasses his parents, in those things that he likes and those things he doesn't like, unless he's commanded to do something which is disobedience to Allah. In that case, there should be no obedience and no what? No hearing. You shouldn't even listen to what's being said, nor what? Obey it. طيب. So, how do we reconcile between this and that amr al-mutlaq, that general command, that all-encompassing, unrestricted command to what? To obey our parents. Well, basically, the scholars of Islam, they basically said that a command that your parents give you is going to be one of four commands. It's going to fall into one of four categories. Either the command is going to be a command which is supported or is founded in the law of Islam. It's supported by the law of Islam or founded in the law of Islam, the teachings of Islam. Sababun shar'i. Or it has a religious basis. It's not in the deen word for word, but it has a religious basis. The reason why they're saying this is what? For a religious reason. Or it has your best interest at heart, regardless if it's shar'i or not shar'i. I'm sorry, it has your best interest at heart. And finally, a command which has their best interest at heart. Okay?
Can you go over all four again?
First one, sababun shar'i. It's clearly from the deen, right? They're commanding, for example, to pray. Got it? The second one, ma'khadh shar'i. It's not directly from the deen, but it's based on the deen, has some relationship or relevance to the deen, a religious basis, if you will, although it's not explicitly in the deen. Then number three, it's a command which has our best interest at heart. Irrespective of whether it's from the deen or has some basis in the deen, it has our best interest at heart. And last but not least, a command which has their best interest at heart. Okay? It's good for them, but not necessarily good for us. Obviously, if it's one of the first two, it won't be disobedience to Allah, so we have nothing really to worry about. And if anything they tell us to do has something, it's a religious basis, we should what? Obey them. The problem comes with the second two. Any command which has our best interest at heart and it doesn't violate the commands of Allah, we should do what? Obey them. Okay? If it has our best interest at heart. Finally, suppose the command that they give us has their best interest at heart, then we have to look. Either it has their best interest at heart and it's not harmful to what? To us. Not harmful to us. Not going to harm us in any way. Okay? All right? Then in that case, we're supposed to what? Obey them. Walaikum salam. So we have no problem whatsoever doing something which is going to benefit them, even though there's no benefit for us. We have no problem whatsoever with that. But suppose they order you to do something which is entirely beneficial to them, but harmful to you at the same time. So, for example, one of the examples that the scholars have given, suppose that a young man, he wanted to marry a girl. And his parents wanted to marry another girl. And he felt that this girl that his parents wanted to marry would be harmful for him. Let's say, for example, she didn't practice Islam, for example. She was a smoker or whatever. But there's some benefit in it for them. So, for example, sometimes what happens is that in some cultures, there's a great amount of familial pressure applied for cousins to be married. That basically, this is my brother. My brother has a daughter. He's having a hard time getting her married. So I have to make my son marry her. There's a lot of pressure applied for something like that. So now this is in the best interest of the boy? No, it's in the best of who? Parents. Because see, if I don't make my son marry my brother's daughter, it's going to cause friction between my brother and myself. So it's in my best interest that what? That he does this. There's no benefit for him. If he, that child, deems it harmful, if I marry this girl's a smoker, this girl's that, that won't be good for what? For me and for my deen. If he deems it harmful, he can, in that case, he can do what? He can disobey. Respectfully disobey. So that final case, in their best interest, but harmful to the child, in that case, they can what? They can disobey. All right? ثم بعد ذلك, what is the danger of the opposite? What is the danger of the opposite of obeying parents? Which basically the scholars have referred to as uqooq al-walidain. Uqooq al-walidain basically means disrespecting, dishonoring mistreating one's parents? What is the danger of disrespecting, disobeying, disowning one's parents? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِمَّا يَبْلُغَنَّ عِنْدَكَ الْكِبَرَ أَحَدُهُمَا أَوْ كِلَاهُمَا فَلَا تَقُلْ لَهُمَا أُفٍّ وَلَا تَنْهَرْهُمَا وَقُلْ لَهُمَا قَوْلًا كَرِيمًا وَاخْفِضْ لَهُمَا جَنَاحَ الذُّلِّ مِنَ الرَّحْمَةِ. Allah says, should one of them or both of them attain old age in your lifetime, then do not say to them, uff. Do not say the slightest word of disrespect, nor shout at them. Rather address them in the most respectful manner, and lower unto them the wing of submission through mercy. This is Surah Al-Isra, verses 23 to 24. Now, this verse, believe it or not, is unequivocal in prohibiting disrespect, and by default, it commands that parents be honored and revered. The person says, well, how is that? Because if you notice, Allah says, don't say to your parents, uff, which is what? The least level of disrespect. Okay? In Usul al-Fiqh, we have something called qiyas al-awlawi. We have, how would you translate that? Qiyas al-awlawi. Well, I'll explain to you by example, because I don't know how I can translate that, but I'll explain by example. Suppose a parent told a child, don't play with matches. Okay? I don't want you to play with what? Matches. And the child said, okay. The parent left, and they came back, and there was a fire burning in the living room. Okay? And they're frantic, and they go to put it out, and they say, didn't I tell you not to play with matches? They say, I didn't play with the matches. I turned the stove on, I took some paper, and I threw it down the carpet in the living room. But I didn't play with matches. If that were you, what would you say? The child said, I promise you I didn't play with matches. I didn't play with matches. I did exactly what you said. You didn't play with, I said, you said don't play with matches. I didn't play with matches. I just lit a fire with paper and set it in the living room. Like, what would you say? Okay, so would the child be wrong? Would they have violated what you told them? Huh? Would they have violated what you told them? Like, why would they have violated what you told them? You didn't tell them that they couldn't light a fire in the living room. No, but you didn't tell them they couldn't light a fire in the living room. You told them not to play with matches.
What you didn't want them to do was to cause a fire.
I think you told them the lowest thing that they couldn't do, but they went beyond and did something worse. Yeah.
I said, so if I don't want you to play with matches, I certainly don't want you to light a fire in what? The living room. That's what we call it qiyas al-awlawi. Al-qiyas al-awlawi. If I prohibit you from doing the least thing, then what?
Don't do greater.
Then you know by default that you're more prohibited from doing what? The greater thing. So now if you go back to the ayah, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تَقُلْ لَهُمَا uff, don't say to them what? Uff. Don't say the least thing that can be counted as disrespect. Then certainly you can't do what? Do that which is greater than that, which disobey them, dishonor them, disown them. You got what I'm saying? So when Allah prohibits the least thing, by default He's prohibiting what? Everything which is what? Which is greater than that. So soon by that we have the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, in which he echoed the sentiments of Allah, but added another what? Layer. Al-uqooq is not only prohibited, but is one of the gravest sins and most heinous crimes in the sight of Allah. Al-Bukhari and Muslim have collected on the authority of Abu Bakr Nufayya ibn al-Harith that the Prophet ﷺ, he said, أَلَا أُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِأَكْبَرِ الْكَبَائِرِ. Shall I not inform you regarding the biggest of the major sins. And he repeated 3 times. Ala ukhbirukum, ala ukhbirukum, ala ukhbirukum. 3 times, shall I not inform you of the greatest of the major sins. So you have minor sins, major sins, and then from the major sins you have what? The greatest of the major sins. The greatest of the major sins. So you have al-kaba'ir, and then from the kaba'ir is what? Some that are even what? More severe, more serious than others. And obviously the companions, they said, yes, indeed, O Messenger of Allah. We definitely want to know so we can avoid those sins. The Prophet said, al-ishraku billah, ascribing partners to Allah. Okay? Wa uqooq al-walidain, and being disobedient or disrespectful to one's parents. This is from what? The greatest of the major sins. In a similar hadith reported by Abdullah ibn Amr, also collected by Bukhari, the Prophet said, al-kaba'ir, the major sins, al-ishraku billah, wa uqooq al-walidain, wa qatl al-nafs, wal-yamin al-ghamus. The Prophet said, if you want to know what the major sins are, they are these. And he said, associating partners with Allah, disrespecting and disregarding one's parents, murder, and intentionally rendering a false oath. Now notice, in both of these hadith, the Prophet coupled uqooq al-walidain with what? With idolatry. That's pretty serious. Because there's no crime greater than what idolatry, and the Prophet is what? He couples disrespecting your parents with what? Idolatry. Puts them on what? On par with each other. Right? Then by that we have another hadith collected by Bukhari and Muslim authority al-Mughira ibn Shu'bah, in which the Prophet, he said, Inna Allah ta'ala harrama alaykum uqooq al-ummahat wa man'an wahat wa wa'd al-banat wa kariha lakum qila wa qal wa kathrat al-su'al wa ida'at al-mal. In this hadith, the Prophet said, indeed Allah has forbidden you the following: disrespecting your mothers, withholding what you should give while demanding what you do not deserve, burying your daughters alive. He also hates he said, she said. He hates people to do what? Spread rumors. Asking too many questions, the answers to which will be of no benefit to anyone, and to waste your wealth. So notice right out of the gate, the Prophet said Allah has forbidden the following. The first thing he mentioned was what? Disrespecting your mothers. So these are different texts from the Sunnah that tell us the danger of disobeying what? Parents. And the enormity, the seriousness of what? Of this disobedience. طيب, ثم بعد ذلك, we want to give some examples, because again, it's just like we talked about previously, we talked about the rights. Sometimes people need to be what? Told specifically what behaviors constitute uqooq so they can avoid them, because without that, they're like, yeah, I know it's bad to disrespect my parents, but I don't realize that the things that I'm doing are disrespectful. So we'll mention some examples of uqooq al-walidain. First of all, intentionally making one's parents cry or sad. Intentionally making one's parents cry or making them sad. Number 2, to rebuke, rebuff, or snub them, chase them away, or make them feel unwanted. Now, it's bad enough if on one occasion, one instance, you were just to make them feel like, look, just get away from me, I don't want to deal with you. That would be even worse if what? If you put them what? In a home. Put them in a home so that other people could take care of them, and then you just what? Visited them once or twice a year, which is what some people do. Number 3, to be annoyed, agitated, or vexed by their instructions or commands. Like as Allah says in the Quran, that you say what? Oof, enough. All you do is ask for stuff, right? So you express your annoyance or agitation when they give you instructions or they ask you to do something. Number 3, to frown at them. Number 4, Jazakallah khair. Number 4, to frown at them. So when you greet your parents, when you're in their presence, you should always have what? A smile, a positive expression, a happy expression. Type number 5, to humiliate them or hold them in contempt. To humiliate them or hold them in contempt. Number 6, to boss them around or issue orders to them. You can advise them. You can kindly request or suggest something, but we don't boss our parents around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7, to criticize the food prepared by one's mother. This is also what? Uqooq. To criticize the food prepared by one's mother. Where are we at? Keep me on count, yeah, Musa. That was 7. So we're at 8 now. Number 8, because I have bullets, I don't have numbers. To refuse or simply refrain from helping them with household chores. So either you outright refuse, I'm not going to do it, or you're told to do it and you just what? You just sit there, without moving or responding. No, it doesn't matter what age, because we said previously that this wasn't predicated on a particular age, living in their household, or the quality of what? Their parenting skills or the quality of their character. You have to honor them regardless of all that. So that being said, if you were to go to your mom's house and you're like 40 years old and you have children of your own, and she said sweep up the kitchen, you get the broom and you get to it. Yeah. ثم بعد ذلك, turning away from them and refusing to listen to them. Turning away from them and refusing to listen to them is also a form of uqooq. Next, having no regard for their opinion, advice, suggestions. Having no regard for their opinion, their advice, their suggestions. Next, failing to seek their permission before entering their bedroom. Okay, they are entitled to their privacy, and you're disrespecting them if you what? You violate that privacy by just entering their bedroom without their permission. Also, to incite an argument or ruckus in their presence. Sometimes in the family, one of the family dynamics is a sibling rivalry. You have two siblings who are like fire and gasoline. When they get into a room, there's going to be what? There's going to be an argument. There's going to be a debate. That's just how they are. And they might not even mean anything by it. When they're in the presence of their parents, they do what? They keep that under wraps. And they don't argue and get into what? Confrontations, heated debates in front of what? Their parents. That's disrespectful. ثم بعد ذلك, to disparage them, put them down in front of others and defame them. What happens sometimes is that children, they achieve a level of success, whether it be academic, whether it be financial, whether it be professional, that their parents couldn't even dream of achieving. And then those parents will say, my father's ignorant. My father didn't even finish high school. It's bad enough that they would say something like this, but if they do it in front of what? Other people. They defame them and put them down in front of what? Other people. That's disrespectful. You don't do that. ثم بعد ذلك, to insult them or curse them. To insult them or curse them. ثم بعد ذلك, bringing prohibited items into their home and engaging in forbidden practices in their presence. ثم بعد ذلك, huh?
Can somebody curse his parents?
Can?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, people do that, yeah.
Their own parents.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
It's unfortunate, but it happens. It happens more often than you might think. Yeah. طيب ثم بعد ذلك, ruining their reputation and good name. This is the way that people disrespect their parents indirectly. That they behave in a way which brings shame to what? Their family and their parents' good name. Right? It's like one guy said, Jazallah khair, hadahullah. He said that when he went off to college, and his father told him, he said, son, I don't have much to give you. but I do have my name. Don't mess it up. You know, I don't have anything to give you, but I've given you my name. Don't mess it up. So yeah, that's something we have to realize. You're disrespecting your parents if what? If you run their name through the mud through what? Through your misbehavior. Tathum ba'dalik, embarrassing them or putting them in an uncomfortable or difficult situation. All right, you embarrass them or you put them in an uncomfortable or difficult situation. Another one, burdening them with many requests and demands for things. So you burden them with what? Too many what? Requests and demands. And I think this is important for teenagers. Because teenagers have a tendency to want to keep up with the latest, whether it be fashion, technology. And so they're constantly what? Asking for these shoes, these clothes, this game system, this cell phone, this constantly, they don't get something bought for them before they're already what? Asking for something else. And so it's important, that they are taught, and sometimes that teaching can't come from the parents. It has to come from someone else to make them see that they shouldn't what? They're disrespecting, they're dishonoring their parents by what? By constantly asking for what? Asking for things. ثم بعد ذلك a husband preferring his wife over his parents is another way that you're disrespecting what? Your parents. A husband preferring his wife over his parents. In a hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, he was asked by Aisha radiyallahu anha. He was asked, Man ahaqqu nasi ala rajul? Who has the most right over a man? And the Prophet said, Ummu. He said his mother. And she said, وَمَنْ أَحَقُّ النَّاسِ عَلَى الْمَرْأَةِ? He said, who has most right over a woman? قَالَ زَوْجُهَا. He said her husband. So if you notice, when it came to the man, he didn't say زَوْجَتُهُ. He didn't say his wife. He said what? His mother. So a man's parents, they take precedence over what? His wife. That doesn't mean that he ignores his wife, okay? Or that he obeys his parents at the expense of his wife. But at the same time, what does sometimes happen is a man becomes so preoccupied with his wife that he totally disregards his family, to the point that some women are demanding in terms of what? The amount of time and the amount of energy and effort they want the husband to invest in the marriage. To the point that without directly asking for it, indirectly they're demanding that he what? He sever the ties with his family. And I've seen situations where a woman's insecurities or whatever will cause her to tell her husband, yeah, I know that you guys, before I came into the picture, used to have a family dinner every Sunday. Well, I want you to whittle that down to what? One Sunday a month, okay? And your parents have a tendency to just come over unannounced. I want you to tell them that they have to what? Give us advance notice, and we have the right to what? We reserve the right to tell them not to come. See, this is what? This is where a woman is now starting to do what? She's starting to overstep her bounds and asking her husband to prefer her to what? Her parents. And this is where the man has to do what? Draw the line. Draw the line. You guys see what I'm saying? طيب ثم بعد ذلك
Vice versa, the woman preferring her husband over her.
Well, obviously, the Prophet said in the hadith that the man has more rights over the woman, or her husband has more rights than her parents. She can't neglect them. No. And he can't ask her to do something haram, which would be to neglect them. But yeah, serving him and honoring him has precedence over what? Honoring her parents, but not vice versa. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay. طيب. ثم بعد ذلك, abandoning them when they need you the most, or when they become elderly. Like this whole nursing home thing, assisted living thing, that basically the Muslims don't do that. Okay? In general. I'm not saying there might be a specific case where a person is unable to care for their parent, but in general, we don't abandon them when they need us the most, because when we need them the most, They didn't abandon us. Tabthun ba'dalik, disowning them or renouncing them. You disown them, you're dead to me. I don't consider myself your child, whatever. This is something that Islam, this would be considered dishonoring one's parents in Islam. Transgressing against them physically, striking them. And again, this might be a lot more common than you think, where a son will strike his mother.
It happens a lot.
Or a son will attempt to strike his father. The father probably has something for him that yeah. طيب. Another one, boycotting them. That you have people who just sever the ties with their parents. They don't call them, don't write them, don't text them, they don't ask about them. They just what? Boycott the parents. ثم بعد ذلك, being stingy with one's wealth and giving them very little of what one has. What time is it now? طيب خلاص أبشر, we're about to wrap up. All right, ثم بعد ذلك, stealing from them. It's another form of uqooq. Stealing from them. Again, a lot more common than you might think. And sometimes it happens innocently, but even then we have to teach our children that what you're doing is displeasing to Allah. You don't take something that doesn't belong to you, that belongs to your parents. You don't do that, because inadvertently you might have good, it's just innocent, but you're innocently what? Violating the command of Allah and displeasing Allah, earning His displeasure. ثم بعد ذلك, wishing that they would pass away. That's the final one we're going to mention under uqooq. Wishing that they would pass away. And sometimes people are, I hate to use the word subjected, but for lack of a better word, they're subjected to parents who maybe are extremely elderly and they have some chronic conditions, some illnesses, which require a great deal of attention and care. And that child feels burdened, overburdened, overwhelmed by the burden of what? Caring for that parent. And they say, they shouldn't even think this internally, but sometimes they'll actually what? They'll actually vocalize it, and they'll say, oh, I just wish she would die so I could live. You guys see that? A person would say that about their parent. Wallahi, that's uqooq. That's one of the worst things. That woman who spent all night watching the hand of the clock go around did not say, I just wish she would, khalik tamut. I wish she would just die so I could get some rest. No, she just what? Stayed up watching the hands what? Turn around the clock. And now you have to do what? Return the favor. Quickly, we're going to mention the cause of uqooq. What causes it? What brings it about? Why does it happen? Why do people do it? How do they fall into it? One reason, al-jahl, ignorance. People are ignorant. Ignorant of what? Ignorant of one of two things. Either they're ignorant of what constitutes al-uqooq. They didn't know that this thing is uqooq. They didn't know that, hey, if I do this, I'll be disrespecting my parents. Or they're ignorant of awaqib al-uqooq. They don't realize the consequences of what they're doing. Yeah, I know it's uqooq, but I didn't realize what the consequences were that serious. So the first one is al-jahl. Number two, poor upbringing. Su'at tarbiyah, poor upbringing. Just children just aren't taught and raised to what? To respect their parents. Which is why this is so important. But not just this, because alhamdulillah, we have some youth, and may Allah reward the parents who brought their children. Even the children are playing and talking, what? They're hearing it. It's there, it's in the atmosphere, and someone's gonna what? It's gonna stick. But if you don't have children who are here, or they couldn't be here for whatever reason, you gotta go home and what? You gotta convey and transmit. You gotta sit down, ta'aleem, and you have to teach your children the importance of what? Respecting their parents. You have to teach that. We have to teach it. Our children are not just going to know it by osmosis. We have to teach it to them. They have to learn and be raised to what? To respect their parents. And when you don't do that, you don't teach them the importance of silat al-rahim, connecting the ties of kinship. You see them doing things that are uqooq and you don't say anything. It comes back later to what? To haunt you. طيب ثم بعد ذلك التناقض. Our contradictory behavior is also another reason why what? Why they disrespect us. So for example, the contradictory behavior. Basically, you tell your children to respect you, but you behave in a way which what? Yeah, you behave in a way which is disrespectful, or you're not in compliance, so they feel like they don't have to be in compliance. For example, father says, oh, son, don't lie. Tell the truth. Always tell the truth. Never lie. Lying is haram. Lying is one of the worst things you can do. The Prophet hated people who lied, etc. Right? Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Then the father gets a call. The son answers the phone. Says, Dad, it's the telephone. Who is it? Oh, it's Uncle so-and-so. Oh, he always wants to borrow money. Tell him I'm not home. Right? So now what are you doing? You're lying. So sometimes the conscious behavior of the parent is one of the reasons why the children what? They do this uqooq. So we have to be mindful that our behavior, we have to what? Behave in a way which reflects how we want them to behave. تفهم بعد ذلك الصحبة السيئة للأولاد. That the children have what? Bad companions. They hang around people who are bad influence. And this is one of the causes of uqooq min jihatain, from two angles. One, it corrupts the children. The people they hang around will corrupt them. As the Prophet said in the hadith, al-mar'u adini khalili, falyanzur ahadukum man yukhalil. He said, a person will follow the faith of his what? His closest companion. So be careful with whom you associate. So we have to realize that when our children hang around people who are bad, they're going to end up what? Corrupted by their badness. Number two, I'm just going to wrap this up real quick.
5:30 in this month. 5:30.
Allah Zakir. I'm just going to wrap this up real quick, couple more points and I'm going to close. ثم بعد ذلك, this bad companionship, it weakens the effect or the impact of the advice of what? The parents. That what happens, and studies have shown this, is that children, when they reach a certain age, they're more likely to listen to what? Their peers than their parents. So it undermines you if you allow them to associate with people who what? Who will tell them not to obey you, not to respect you. طيب ثم بعد ذلك, the parents' disrespect and dishonoring of their own parents will cause what? Their children to disrespect them. Right? Because your children will what? Follow your bad example. Boy, don't talk to me like that. That's disrespectful. Will you talk to your dad like that? You guys see that? ثم بعد ذلك, also الجزاء من جنس العمل. That basically you get punished in accordance with what? The deeds that you do. So when you do something wrong, you get punished with what? The same wrong. As they say, what goes around comes around. Okay? Well, we don't believe in karma, but you get the point, right? Type another cause of uqooq is when when instances of divorce are void of the fear of Allah. When couples separate and they do so in a way where they don't fear Allah, this is another reason that causes this uqooq. It's another thing that lights the fire of what? Uqooq in children. Because when the parents are trading insults and they're behaving in a way which is not civil, they cause a tajneed. They cause the children to do what? To form into what? Camps. Pro-mom camp, anti-dad camp. Pro-dad camp, anti-mom camp. So their absence, the lack of fear of Allah, creates what? This uqooq. So now I'm going to disrespect my mother, disrespect my father because of what? Because I've now become what? In this camp or in that camp. طيب. Another thing, last two, is being too hard or too soft on children. Too soft makes them inclined toward, makes them what? Too soft makes them very what? Liberal. Very liberal. That they don't really value doing the right thing because it was never emphasized and stressed. Too hard makes them rebellious. They want to rebel against authority. So you have to strike a balance in what? In your parenting. طيب ثم بعد ذلك, you don't get the help. Another reason or cause for uqooq is you don't get the help from the surrounding community that you need to what? To stress and emphasize and teach and encourage children to what? To be good to their parents. And we talked about this, how we asked how many people heard a khutbah in the last 10 years about birrul walidain. And only 2 people said, yeah, I've heard several. But everybody else what? One person said one, and everybody else, I haven't. And I'm going to be honest with you, I have never, since I've been Muslim, heard a khutbah on birrul walidain. Never. I was in the kingdom for like 7 years. And if I did hear one, it wasn't memorable. I don't remember. And this is a khutbah that should be what? Should be repeated, especially in the environment we live and the times in which we live, in which we have a big problem with what? Our children and their disrespect of their parents. This should be something emphasized and stressed, which makes me wonder, as I said before, how do they come up with the topics? And why is this not, on the list somewhere? Last but not least, the environment. The environment surrounding is another cause of uqooq. That basically people are a product of their environments, as we have in the hadith of the man who killed 99 people, in which the Prophet ﷺ, he said that when the man went to a genuine scholar and he asked him, Inna rajula qatala miyata nafsan fahal lahu min tawbah. He said, a man killed 100 people. Can he repent? The scholar said, Naam, wa ma yahulu baynaka wa bayna at-tawbah. He said, yes, certainly. And what can come between you and Allah's forgiveness? Then he told him what? Intalaq ila ardi kada wa kada. فإن بها أناسا يعبدون الله تعالى فاعبد الله معهم ولا ترجع إلى بلدك فإنه بلد سوء. He told him, he said, go forth from this place because there's a land. He said, go forth to such and such land because in that place there are good people who worship Allah. Go and worship Allah with them. And don't return to what? Your land, because it's an evil place. What's he telling him in a roundabout way? You're a product of your environment. And you're not a bad person, but you're bad because the environment around you is what? Bad. It encourages this behavior. Go to this land, it'll encourage you to be good, and you'll be good. And so our children are products of what? The environment. That's why it's important for Muslims to what? Foster an environment which is conducive to what? To what they're trying to achieve. We have to create communities which encourage our children to be what? To be kind and honoring and obedient and respectful to their parents. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين.